Are we live?
We're live.
Okay, so this is the Happiness Podcast Project. Doing a reaction to the
And tribute.
to the untimely death of Nipsey Hussle. And so usually we try to keep it very light, have a lot of fun here. And I'm not saying that that's not appropriate now, but I just don't feel that way. How I feel is that I think that hip hop culturally lost an up and coming artist who was just hitting his stride. His last album was nominated for a Grammy, which is not as big as it used to be. But for somebody who was basically a mixtape MC to come all the way up and get a Grammy nomination on that last album, which was probably by far one of the best hip hop albums that I've heard in a long time. Matter of fact, his
skyrocketing in sales about 2,500%.
Yeah, his streams are 300% up, which is expected. And I'm gonna say this, and there's a lot of times when people get on the bandwagon and they start streaming something after someone died. I mean, that happened with Mac Miller, and I'm guilty of it too. It's like, wow, I mean, I didn't know everything about this, but I encourage everybody who hears this to download and stream constantly all of Nipsey Hussle's music, because first of all, you're going to get great content, great quality, but you're also going to directly support his family. Because one thing you're going to learn about Nipsey Hussle is that he owned 100% of his masters. He owned everything. He was an ownership individual. And these streams will make sure that his daughter never goes hungry. So that's very
And maybe
important.
some even his projects that he was working on to continue to thrive.
Yeah.
And continue. I mean, I know there are a lot of people in the community that he worked inside of depend on these jobs and opportunities.
Right. Just breaking down the man. You know, it's really funny because hip hop as an art.
I want to add too. Vegan culture, as well as entrepreneurship culture.
Vegan culture, entrepreneur, and let's just break it all down. Let's break down hip hop. Let's break down what he meant to hip hop. Let's break down what he meant to a vegan culture, into a holistic health, and let's break down his entrepreneurship. So I want to talk about his hip hop culture first of all, because I am of the hip hop generation, and I will say that being a mixtape MC, first time I heard of Nipsey Hussle, he was on a song with Snoop Dogg. I forget the song, and I swear to God, I thought it was Snoop's like cousin or something. I was like Snoop always got his family, always got his family doing something. I was like, oh, Snoop's Hussle's Imperial, but he had his own unique voice, and he was a dope MC, right? And he was just hitting his stride, like I said before. But let's break down something that he said at an early age. I'm talking about he was a youngster. He had like a little afro, and he's sitting there
Early
20s, maybe even 19. And Crenshaw, he was on Crenshaw and Slauson, and he said he had a chain on, and they said, "Oh, we see you doing your thing. You got this chain." And he said, "Yeah, but I'm not really into things that depreciate. I want to own businesses. I want to own things that appreciate." And then they jumped back and they said, "Wow. So you're not just a gangbanger."
A gangbanger.
And that's what it is, because he came from gang culture. And he also said something that says, like, I'm not a gangbanger, right? But I'm actively in a gang but now my gang status is going to be to help people in this community. And, we got to say that we have to allow our people as hip hop culture, as black people, and I'm going to say this being a black person, that we always we allowed the Italians to help their community. The Italian gangsters, the Jewish gangsters, they were big in their community. Like, they wouldn't be spilling out blood in the street. We got to allow our black gangsters to get older, stop banging, and to help their community. And that's what Nipsey Hussle was doing. So, I mean, just breaking down his music, Grammy nominated, owned his own masters, had great music. Just check it out all you can. Now I want to talk about the holistic health side, and Scott, do you want to say something about his diet?
Well, I know he was a vegan. I watch Ralph Smart Infinite Waters, and he's a big proponent of veganism. And I know that Nipsey was a vegan himself. He was doing a documentary on Dr. Sebi, who was promoting the power of plant medicine and what it can do to heal the human body from inflammation and from having too much mucus, which is almost the root and stem of a lot of diseases.
Yes.
So it's a blow for that community, because he was a rapper, which is very masculine. who's not really known for veganism,
Right.
and he was already promoting it without even trying to promote it. He was making a documentary on a man that is known to be the father of vegan plant medicine.
Yeah, the father of Dr. Sebi. And if you haven't heard of Dr. Sebi, do yourself a favor. Check it out.
It's got books too.
Books, documentaries. Other rappers who are plant-based now is a Jay-Z. Jay-Z's been plant-based in Beyonce. And Jay-Z was a big supporter of Nipsey Hussle. Just entrepreneurship. But Nipsey Hussle was currently producing a documentary about the life of Dr. Sebi. And what he was really talking about is how Dr. Sebi's trial, if you don't notice, in 1985, Dr. Sebi went on trial in the state of New York, had accused him of making false medical claims because Dr. Sebi said, hey, I found a way through diet to cure AIDS, to cure cancer, to cure pneumonia, to cure all of these diseases. And what the court told him and the prosecutor told him is bring us one person that you've saved, and he produced 35, and they had to dismiss the case. Nobody talks about this. The reason why they don't talk about it is because the fucking pharmaceutical companies and the fucking doctors, and let's just say doctors because...
The salesman doctors.
The salesman doctors. And I'm not trying to say that everybody who makes, pharmaceuticals like penicillin saves lives, right? Doctors help save lives. But when it becomes a business...
The industrial complex of promoting, peddling pharmaceuticals, which are equivalent to illicit drugs.
Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is why he died, or push any conspiracy theory, because I find conspiracy theories when someone dies very distasteful. But it may be the truth. But I still find it distasteful. I'm not here to push it. But I'm here to say that he was going to expose this, and it was going to be for the betterment of everybody. But also he had a healthy holistic mind state. And when I say a healthy holistic mind state, I mean if you just looked at the young brother, right, and somebody over 10 years, 12 or 13 years younger than me, you looked at him and he had a look in his eyes and an understanding of the world and how to help his community that other people didn't have. A matter of fact, Gary Vaynerchuk, when he died, and this is something that Charlamagne the God said, and they're really good friends. And he says, do you realize, fuck the business ventures. Forget that. Forget the rap. That's great. I love Nipsey Hussle, but that's great. But forget that. Think about this. The world lost a mind that understood that life is a marathon, that life is not just a sprint. And he was looking for long-term games and to do things in the long-term.
His project was called the Marathon Project.
Right. His company was called the Marathon. And that was his branding. His branding was called the Marathon. And
for a young man, him and I are equivalent the same age. He had such a long foresight and long-term plan.
Right.
He was already thinking of uplifting his community out of poverty, especially considering the coming of the artificial intelligence revolution.
Yeah.
He was already ahead of his time. And for him to have his life snuffed out over... there's some reports, but it seems like jealousy, to tell you the truth.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. There was a blatant lie by Louis J. Gomez on the Joe Rogan podcast. It was a blatant lie. It was just some bullshit that he heard. And I'm sick of people who, when somebody dies, why don't you taste your words before you say it? Because what he said was that Nipsey had gotten a fight with somebody and he came back and he shot
Nipsey
him.
didn't seem like a fighter to me. He fought in a spiritual, mental way.
Well, I'm sure he had a masculine energy, and if he had to fight,
of course he would.
He would. Somebody got in his face before, and they had last year, and Nipsey slapped the shit out of him. And that's
I didn't know about that one.
And that's but really, if you come up around people I came up around, that shit is normal. A guy kissed Will Smith and Will Smith
he slapped. I was thinking about the same thing. I remember I saw that clip. It was hilarious.
Just because you're in a certain position, if a man violates you in a certain way, you may strike out against him, wrong or right. But that wasn't the case. Louis J. Gomez, fucking shame on you. That wasn't the case. He was there buying clothes for two people who just got out of jail so they can get a job. So he said, come down, I'm going to buy you clothes. I'm going to give you clothes from my shop. He was taking a picture with a little kid. This person came up to him and said, hey, I have the same mind as you do, Nipsey Hussle. I'm just a little behind you. He shook his hand. Dude walked away. Nipsey's brother, who was with him, went inside the store to go grab the clothes and come out. And dude came back and shot several times, shot the dude with him, shot Nipsey in the head, and shot the kid.
And I have to add that Nipsey went off to go to his clothing store. basically, because I'm not sure what exactly to sell clothes, right?
Yeah,
Some other things. Well, so he got clothes for these individuals. Well, his bodyguard was not notified.
Yeah.
And I saw that the bodyguard on Instagram made a very long, heartfelt post about how he is retiring from bodyguarding.
Yeah,
because he wasn't there to protect Nipsey.
His bodyguard was actually in one of the shops or something like that, right? But he wasn't there, and he was like his job was to protect Nipsey, and he wasn't able to. And for someone who's been in protection before, if you're attached to someone, that's a pretty tough pill to swallow. But I want to say something about how special this person was. I've never seen an individual die that Bloods in L.A. mourned him. Prominent Bloods, prominent Crips mourned him. Music people mourned him. Entrepreneurs, Gary Vaynerchuk mourned him.
Ralph Smart, Infinite Waters, 1.5 million subscribers
mourned him. The police chief said when he seen the picture, the police chief said he opens up and he says the people who died, he gets a report and he looks at it and it said Nipsey Hussle and he just put it down and he read it again. He put it down and he read it again. He said, no, not this person. This was the guy this was our guy. He was helping the community. No, he's loved by the community. How could someone kill him? And only thing I gotta say is shame on you to spread bad rumors about him, and shame on that person who shot him. That person was found he turned himself in 2 days later, checked into a mental health hospital under his own name, which I think, I'm cynical right now and I'm a little angry. I think that's a convenient way to get out of it. I think that people on the street probably wanted to hurt him.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
I think that the police probably wouldn't have gave him too much cover, and I think that it was very, very, very untimely that this individual died. His entrepreneurship, he owned a block or a half a block in South Central, or what they call South LA now.
Own it to develop it, not to show it off, not to stun on the gram, to develop it and reinvest whatever proceeds back into the community.
So he can build more. And he was like, this is just phase one.
That's phase one. Exactly. That's what I was
He was like, this is just phase one. Wait till you see what we're going to do next. So just some of the things he had. He had a WeWork space where young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs from the inner city could get together and network and have a shared office space. And the reason why he created that is because that did not exist. So there's a lot of shared office spaces in the San Francisco Bay Area. But
around here in the peninsula.
In a peninsula. But there's no shared workspace like in the inner city. You know, there's no shared space where like maybe those people who have some great ideas can go and do it. Next to that, he had an everyday store, a store where you can go for a good price and get like socks and underwear and things of that nature, because there's not a lot of malls in that area. You have to go all the way across town. He had a cellular phone store, just little entrepreneurship, small businesses that I absolutely love. He had a clothing store that you had an app that you would order your clothes that you want from the app and somebody would bring it out to you. So he was ahead of the curve.
You know what I like about it? It's almost like he merged capitalistic principles with a little bit of, just kind of social programs into it, embedded. Yes. It was a combination of both to help out the community, but also to drive more profit.
Yes, because, well, look, everybody knows. You can't, one of the things that everyone always says, well, what does this community need to be better? Well, the community needs some fucking money. You got to have money circulating in the community. I've said it before, the black dollar stays in the neighborhood for 4 to 5 hours before we just run to another neighborhood to spend it. And a lot of times people say that, and you can stand on that principle, but if there's nothing to spend it on in the neighborhood, it's almost impossible for you not to do that. So he had stores and businesses that you can spend your money with the people in your neighborhood, and that just makes the whole area stronger. If I'm sitting here and I'm spending money in my neighborhood gets better. By virtue, the neighborhood next to me can get better. Because they can see what I'm doing and duplicate it there. Or I can duplicate it in the next neighborhood.
And then the money, the economy flows between neighborhoods.
Exactly.
And then you build more stronger networks. And I mean, that's how social media network works out. That's a social network theory.
Right. And so it was absolutely amazing. And I don't think people realize what we've lost. I feel the same way I felt when Tupac passed away, and then Biggie passed away. A huge loss to the world, because I think that we weren't he just had scratched the surface. Because his mind was the long game. His mind wasn't what's happening now.
He was a visualizing master.
Yes.
Like, let's bring this like right to holistic development principles. He knew what he wanted at a young age. He began to work on it. His inner spirit was strong, and he was decisive with purpose and just action. So he put whatever thoughts he had in mind into action. Went on a vegan diet, of all things.
Yeah.
Was emotionally stable and emotionally intelligent enough to know how to work with the community, especially a community that was coming out from federal prisons.
Yeah, married to the baddest woman ever, dude.
Lauren Lennon, yeah, she's hot.
Married to a bad. Well, I mean, like
I respect. I'll do respect.
Respect.
Yeah.
But damn, you did it right, homie. And I mean, took care of his kid. His kid was always there with him. And speaking of holistic development, he had lyrics in his song that says, "I write it down, then I follow through."
Mm-hmm. And so that's what he brings into the physical action. So he got it all done, and what happens? It spreads out to the community.
Yeah.
It starts from within, and it goes out to the community. And it's a shame that he has passed away, but I am hoping that his energy, that his aura, it will always be within our society and within other people that have been influenced by him, directly or indirectly. We have to keep living on with his spirit of entrepreneurship endeavors and the spirit of giving. So
one of my favorite like new rappers is not a big name, but his name is China Mac. He's this Chinese dude.
I saw him,
Chinese dude from I think he's from Brooklyn. But he's and I actually like his rhymes, right? Because he's kind of like hardcore. He kind of reminds me. He's almost a throwback, kind of like a few years ago when it's ultra grimy style. He's got flows though. He has a.
You know what he said? Okay, I mean now we're going a little bit off of Nipsey, but China Mac actually adapted his flow to this generation's flow style because he wants to be able to have his voice heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, check it out. What China Mac said about Nipsey, he said, "Man, I didn't know the dude, and I didn't even know much about him, but he died, and everyone was like, you got to see what the shit he was on." And he said, so I started reading about what he was on. He's like, I got to change my shit up. I'm going to change my shit a little bit. That's the power of a person like that. And that's why you can't snuff this out. So let me tell you something. This is the last thing I'm going to say about this. I don't want this to be too long. We're already about like 18 minutes. So I don't want to like do 45 minutes being upset because I'm obviously upset. But, in reality, if the hood didn't kill Nipsey Hussle, right? Rap music didn't kill Nipsey Hussle. I don't think the government killed Nipsey Hussle. An ignorant person or a sick person who's a fucking coward killed Nipsey Hussle.
Sometimes the most simplest explanations.
And the hood is big on getting rid of cowards. Right? Every time, I've been in some pretty tough situations, some tough neighborhoods, and one of the things that you couldn't be was a fucking coward. But we're falling down on our responsibility and letting cowards through. This man shouldn't have been allowed to touch somebody like that in his own neighborhood. And I'm glad that there was a lot of cooperation with the police. That's not snitching. When somebody goes and kills one of the people who are doing so much for your community,
leader,
you need to tell the fucking police. Man, it's a dude who shot Martin Luther King Jr., you need to tell the police on him. Fuck that snitch shit. Get these cowards the fuck up out of here. When someone is doing something for the community and have changed their life, went from a rolling 60s Crip, went from a Crip and a gangbanger all the way to being an entrepreneur and a leader in his community. You need to protect those people because they've seen both sides of the game and they're trying to get people on the right side of the game.
To empower and strengthen,
right.
Basically get out of, what the ghettos are technically today. Projects would be prisons.
Traps.
Mental prisons.
Traps. Once you get in, it's hard to get out. So
I mean, with that society or with that culture so pervading, I'm very happy that he was an individual that was attempting to shift that paradigm into a new future outcome.
Yeah, and I hope my prayers goes out to his family, especially his child. I hope his child has everything in the world that he wanted his child to have, because I know that she's not going to be able to get that transmission The biggest thing when an elder passes away is that library burns down. And Nipsey was far beyond his years, but the biggest crime of this whole thing isn't the fact that he's not going to be able to do all of the things he wanted to do. It's the fact that his knowledge, his mentality is not transmitted to his child yet. Because I'm telling you, there's no way. I didn't get the knowledge from my father until I was 40. It takes a long time to get that download sometimes. He wasn't able to download that. That's the biggest tragedy. When the library burns to the ground, you got to make sure you capture the knowledge. And so I don't have much to say about it. I just raise my glass. I say salute to Nipsey. One love, man.
And that's about it.
Happiness Podcast.
Signing out.
Boom.
Scotty.
I'm G.
Peace.